Welcome to Live from the Space at 100 Taylor, season premiere for season 2. And we're starting off with a bang because we're starting off with one of the gems, of the jewels of Nashville. Charisma and talent abound, Hadley Kennary.
Hello.
Hi, Hadley.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. How are you?
So far, so good.
So Hadley, okay, so Crooked Roots, your EP,
Yes.
is out into the world now.
Yes, finally.
So good, Hadley. I mean,
Thank
you have this unique ability to have these songs that are so relatable, but at the same time, like so deep, and with your talent, they just create such an impact. It's beautiful.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. I'm so happy that it's finally out. I've been working on it for years, and just, the way that everything unfolded over the last couple of years, like put the process back a little bit,
Yeah.
but I'm stoked that it all unfolded the way it did.
I know, but your songwriting it's so good too. And isn't it amazing, like when you listen to like Habits, which came out 2 years ago?
Yeah.
But it feels like longer, right?
I know. It's simultaneously feels like it was yesterday and also like it was another creative lifetime ago.
Yeah.
What, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
But,
I know, like the songwriting has just like evolved in you so much. I mean, I
Thank
love
you.
Habits, but listening to like also like With Love from Chicago and all that
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
from like that era.
No, not tough at all. I love that. Yeah, I'm very
No,
grateful for
it's
that
all
song.
great, but it's amazing. Like when you look at your artistic career thus far, like what working on your craft and like discipline can do, because you could tell that the sparks were there in those first records. Like your voice and your talent was there. The songwriting, the seeds were there. You can hear them.
That's very kind of you to say.
And
Thank
like
you.
when you see them like spruce up, it is
Yeah.
like just like a beautiful thing. It's like gardening a plant.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
I love that. Thank you for saying that. It's very sweet.
No, it's true. And Hadley, it's last weekend I was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I had a conversation with one of the Go-Go's, and I wanted to
That's
ask you
awesome.
this because she said that people are not born with talent, and this is something that's always boggled my mind. Sometimes I ask the guests, like, are people born with talent or do they work? But it's like watching you, the way you've evolved, I almost like get confirmation, like, yes, you are very talented. But isn't it true that it's like hard work ultimately what makes an artist, right?
I think it's a combination of both. I think, for some people there is an amount of just like God-given, universe-given, whatever talent that people are born with and can't deny. And I feel like, for some people it's their creative duty to give that to the universe and, pin it down and make it real. And for other people, it's also just an amount of doing the work and starting from square one and working your way up. And I think for a lot of people, it's also just like a combination of the two.
Yeah.
And I think regardless of how much talent you believe that you were given from the get-go, like I think a work ethic for this career is so important.
So important.
Yeah.
And I've been reading like biographies of like Da Vinci and all these people because I'm getting old and
That's
boring,
great.
I guess.
No, that's awesome.
But all these people, like since young, they had a dad that was a painter or something, or they would go to these mountains and paint all day. Like it didn't just happen,
Yeah.
right? That's to your point.
Yeah, I think it's so important to even just looking at like, kind of like you were talking about, looking at artists from record one to record, wherever they are down the line. It's you see growth happen, and that comes from just doing it more and from growing as a person, because I feel like, life informs art and art informs life. And so I feel like as we grow as people, we can't not grow as creatives if that's the focus.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And there's many words that can describe Hadley Kennary, but I think but one of them is courageous.
Thank you.
And like, look, I'll give you one of many examples. When you're 15, 16 years old and you're in Winnetka, Illinois,
Yeah.
like you go to Little Ricky's, this little bar.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like,
also rest in peace, I don't believe that.
like you're
bar is there
15
anymore.
years old, okay? So I just want to like emphasize for my audience that all of us at 15, we're like, we're a mess. We're a teenage mess. Like we're already like insecure as it is. But you walk into these bars and you talk to the bartender and you're like, hey, can I play here? Like, where did this come from? I love that.
I am very grateful for that place. Little Ricky's is a bar up in the suburbs of Chicago, and they were one of the first places that let me play. And, you know, a lot of places don't let you play until you're 21. And I went in with my mom and said, hey, I have some songs that it would be fun to play. And they let me just set up a PA system, which I still have now. My mom and I went to Guitar Center and got like speakers and everything. And they let me just set up in the corner of the bar and play for an hour. And I showed up like barely knowing what I was doing, but knowing that I wanted to play. And I got a couple of my friends to sing backgrounds for me. That it was
What? Hadley,
so
you're 15
fun.
years old.
It was fun. I think maybe I was like 16, 17. But yeah, I mean, still very much a mess, but like very much just having something that needed to come out. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like music from the get-go was always something that I gravitated towards, whether it was musical theater or, you know, piano or playing guitar or whatever, but and especially singing in choirs. But I picked up a guitar and started actually writing songs when I was maybe 15, 16, and it was something that I just wanted to keep doing.
Yeah.
And something that, you know, thankfully I had very supportive parents who were like, yeah, let's try and make this happen, and
That's
like
cool.
let's like see if we can get you a platform in our small town and
Oh my God.
see what happens. And so I'm very grateful for that place and for my parents for helping me do
But
that
it's
from
no
a very early
wonder,
age.
you know, no wonder we're talking off camera that, like, you know, you get a call at midnight to play the Ryman or whatever, and you're just like, let's go. Basement East, Ryman, wherever it is, New York. You're so courageous. It's amazing.
Thank you for saying that.
No, thank you for like inspiring
please.
us to like take risks and like, you know, don't be afraid of failure, because that's how stuff happens.
I mean, failure is definitely always on the horizon of like, what's going to happen? Is this a good choice? Especially like in the wake of the last year, like just everything turning upside down and not knowing what is the right decision, quote unquote, right decision anymore. But
Yeah.
I feel like we try and do the best we can with what we're given.
Yeah, but you're also very business savvy, talking about that. Like
Thanks.
at Berkeley, you know, that was part of your program. And
That was, yeah. I
Yeah.
studied music business, and I, you know, kind of going back to the work ethic, like back to what we were talking about earlier, of, you know, knew I wanted to be in a creative career, but I didn't know exactly in what capacity, or what lane I wanted to run down, but I knew I wanted to, at least for the most part, or at least have a general idea of how to handle myself regardless of where I ended up. And so I chose to study music business and
Yeah.
just at least have an outline or have some sort of blueprint for what that might look like, you know?
I love it. You got to write a book sometime later, like the Hadley
We'll
Kennary
see.
Path to Success.
If people will let me talk for that long,
TED Talk,
sure. Yeah.
I love it. We'll get to the new songs in a second, but I
Yeah.
also want to ask you about another word that describes you,
Yeah.
and that is giving. You're a giver.
Thank you.
No, it's true. And like just going back again to New Trier High School.
Yeah.
You know, you were playing community events, you know, like supermarket openings, supermarket
Yeah.
refurbishments, and food pantries. And you do the same here in Nashville when the tornado hit, Basement East, you know, telling your fans where to volunteer, what to do. I wonder if you can share a little bit about like your upbringing in regards to the importance of giving back.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was when I lived in Kansas. Maybe I moved around a lot when I was little, but I think it was when I lived in Kansas, and I had a few friends that were in a community service club, and I was like, sure, I'll join in this. And, you know, just I remember thinking from a really young age, like, this is really beautiful that like we can help each other, and that like it's, you know, I think it's important to take what we're given and take, like, I think everybody can help in ways that they, how do I say this? I believe that I can use music for entertainment purposes, for, you know, God willing, financial purposes for myself to, you know, make a living doing what I love. But I also believe that, you know, people need music, and if I can use that to help people and give back, then why wouldn't you, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the most satisfying to give back, right?
Yeah, it's a really beautiful
Yeah,
thing. And
I
it's
know.
like, I feel like specifically here in Nashville, it's like there's, like Nashville is so synonymous with community for me. And so I think there are so many opportunities to really work with music to help give back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And perfect segue. I think that's why you're putting roots here. So let's segue
Yeah.
with that, right? Because I have also fell in love with this place. And let's start with the title track of
Yeah.
Crooked Roots, because
Yeah.
beautiful song, powerful.
Thank you.
But you know, your journey, obviously, you moved around a lot. You know, it's been well documented that you moved around as a child quite a bit. But yeah, like talk to me about like, was it the pandemic that made you like grapple with like, where am I from? Where do I live? Like, who am I in the grand scheme of like my story? Like, because it's such a powerful song. And I moved a little bit up a bit, so it kind of like pulled my strings. Like, where does this introspection came from for you?
Yeah, I actually wrote that song in I want to say it was 2019. So it was pre-pandemic, but it was, I think, so like I said, or like we've talked about, I grew up moving around a lot. I ended up living in Chicago for the longest, and my parents were there for about 12 years. Like I finished high school, my brother finished high school there, and then in 2018 they decided that they were gonna move. And I thought that I had kind of processed all of that, like picking up and moving, and you know, especially being an adult and being able to do it on my own terms within a city that I love. And I kind of thought that I had processed all of that. Turns out I hadn't, and I had felt just called to write something that really acknowledged the difficulty of like the whole concept of where am I from, and what, like where do I find my roots, and where do I like consider them to be, and also saying, you know what, it is a really beautiful thing to call a bunch of different places home.
Yeah.
And I wanted to write something that kind of touched on both sides of that coin. And it was a hard song to write. It was the kind of thing where I wrote like the first verse and through the end of the first chorus, and then it kind of just sat in a voice memo on my phone for a couple months, and I didn't really know what it was going to be. And then I remember I was driving with my friend Bree to a show in South Carolina and showed her just this minute and a half, and she was like, I feel like you have to finish this. Like, this needs to be said. And
yes.
Sure enough, we finished it, and here it is.
Yeah, and thank you for saying it, you know,
yeah,
for all those people that feel like,
where
am I from, a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I was born here, but don't 100% feel there, like that whole thing. So.
Well, it's funny, I remember even going to college, and like, for a lot of people, it was their first time like leaving home and leaving places that they had lived their entire lives. And so people, you know, take pride in very specific things. Like I feel like people take pride in like certain restaurants that you can only get in certain states, or like sports teams or whatever. And I kind of was just like, I don't like, not that I don't have any of those, but I felt like I had many of those, and therefore it was just a little bit conflicting and confusing. You know, I joke that I'm a bit of a walking identity crisis, but at the same time, I think it's a really beautiful, as I've grown up, I find it's a really beautiful thing to have like this polychromatic sense of self and sense of where am I from, you know?
Yes.
So choosing to celebrate it and acknowledging that that's like, it is a really beautiful thing.
Right on, right on. Okay, Possession of Pain.
Yeah.
Rattles my head as well.
Thank
and
you.
It goes back to the courage thing, because most people are afraid, and I think we all are, but to embrace their garbage, if you will. Just to like kind of dig into what's holding them back and like look at it in the eye and clean it up, right? But with this song, like you talk about the importance of this. It's a life change for people who really listen to this song and take it into soul. It can change their lives.
Thank you for saying that.
It can, because it's like, you know, possessed, like what's holding you back. Why do you think people are so afraid of, you know, embracing their garbage?
Ooh, I mean, because it's not pretty. You know, it's the kind of thing that, I mean, when I wrote Possession of Pain with my friend Susan Ruth, she and I kind of met like briefly in passing at shows, and then I showed up to her house and was kind of having a dark day myself and just needed to work a lot of it out. And, you know, there were a couple people in the last few weeks, or in the few weeks leading up to that had passed away, that I was like, a kind of like friend of a friend of a friend, or like a distant somebody that I knew. And I was kind of just had this inner turmoil of like, how much of this am I allowed to feel? And then there was like an additional layer of guilt on like, I should be able to feel this, what I want. But at the same time, like if I'm not, I was like measuring how much of something I was allowed to feel, which is completely counterintuitive.
Right.
Because I think, you know, we need like everybody has their own healing process. And I showed up to Susan's house and said, you know, I'm feeling all of these things, but also I want to zoom out and say, like, why am I even, you know, in self-conflict with this?
Yeah.
And we got this song out of it. And I think people don't want to look at their, like, that healing process because it's just not easy to look at. But I think we grow by holding mirrors up.
Yes.
And thankfully, I have a lot of people in my life who do that, and my collaborators being some of my favorite ones of those. And I'm very grateful for that
telling you,
song.
Hadley, so many good messages in this EP. That's the beauty.
Thank you.
Like again, the production, the voice and Bree and the product, everyone, Matt, everyone is amazing. But it's the message is what takes it to like another level.
Thank you.
It's really profound. It's
Thank you.
incredible. Okay, so before we get to a performance, which
Yeah.
we're lucky we'll get, I want to ask you about 2021 because last year I used to ask, well, what are the lessons of 2020, right?
Sure.
But I feel like 2021 deserves kind of the same question.
Yeah.
Because it's been a completely different year than 2020, but it's also had some completely different lessons.
Oh yeah.
What is like as the year wraps up, something that like you'll take from this year?
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I'm kind of been looking at 2020 as it was very much survival mode, very month to month, very, taking it a couple weeks at a time, which I'm such a planner and creature of schedules and routine, and so last year was a challenge to say the least. But I feel like 2021 has been the response to it, and the, reflection trademark, like we're all kind of responding to what we all went through as humanity. And I feel like, and like kind of like we were talking about off camera, like making up for lost time and, getting out there and going to shows and traveling, and it's all been really beautiful. But I feel like over the last couple of years, it's been one long exercise in where to put my energy.
Yeah.
And while that looked 2021 and 2020 looked very different in that regard, I feel like it all kind of is under the same umbrella. And I think a lesson coming out of 2021 is just to kind of pay attention still to where that belongs, you know, because
yes,
in 2020 for me it was like, okay, I'm gonna write, because writing is one of the few things I can control right now, and I can, control my creative output. And then 2021 I felt, it was a beautiful thing to get back into my old routines, but at the same time I felt overstimulated and overwhelmed for just like how much I personally put on myself to make up for lost time.
Yeah.
And so I think 2021 was just the other side of that coin, albeit maybe the more exciting, like familiar version of it. But I think it's still just a lesson in where to put our energy.
Yeah.
And paying attention to for me personally, paying attention to what my body is trying to tell me. And for the rest, or for the foreseeable future, it's telling me like, let's go back into creative input mode for a little bit, like it's been a beautiful season. It's been a beautiful release season, and I'm very happy that I've been giving my work their days in the sun, but I'm excited to get back and put a little bit more energy into creative input mode for a while. Yeah.
Perfectly said, Hadley.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You've said it all for today. Thank you so much. Love it, love it. Take us away with a song, if you will.
I will, yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
I think I'm going to play the title track to the EP, Crooked Roots.
Wonderful.
All right, here we go. I'm a sucker for a skyline, high on alleyways and curves, seeking meaning in the fine lines, and some purpose it could serve. And I've been rooting for the whole team, but it never really felt like mine. Young ambition chasing old dreams, me and my manifested pride. Oh, what's different makes me anxious, and old familiar places only make me cry. Oh, I try not to be thankless, a faint appreciation for the unsettled life. My road
roads are traveled, but they don't unravel. No, they go on, cracked and true this time. My roots are shallow, but they're many, hallowed, strong and steady. And I know I'll be fine with these crooked roots of mine. I know nothing of the future, but every couple years or so, ego gets a sense of humor. I get the urge to up and go. Call it identity crisis, but who am I to say I'm found? Maybe it's my own devices, growing up from underground. Oh, it's different, makes me anxious, and all familiar places only make me sad. Oh, maybe home is faceless, just gotta learn to take it for the memories I've had. My roads are traveled, but they don't unravel. No, they go on, cracked into this time. My roots are shallow, but they're many, hallowed, strong and steady. And I know I'll be fine. My roads are traveled, but they don't unravel. No, they go cracked and true this time. My roots are shallow, but they're many, hallowed, strong and steady. And I know I'll be fine with these crooked boots of mine. These crooked boots of mine. Ooh, ooh.
I have chills. My chills have chills.
Oh,
Thank you, Hadley.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right. We're